There are words that stick in your soul like glass splinters. And what are you going to do about it, old lady? That's what my son-in-law said to me that afternoon. He said it with a twisted smile, his arms crossed, as if I were some insignificant bug he could crush with his foot. He said it after I confronted him about the bruises I saw on my daughter's arms. I didn't answer him with words. I took out my cell phone, snapped a picture, and sent it to a number. 30 minutes later, his life changed forever. And mine too. My name is Mary O'Connell. I am 56 years old, and for nearly 3 decades, I worked as a secretary in the District Attorney's Office of Boston, Massachusetts. I was never anyone important. I never made the newspapers. But I knew a lot of people, I learned a lot of things, and I kept a lot of contacts. Contacts I never thought I would have to use, not until that November afternoon when my daughter, Claire, came to my house with dry tears on her cheeks and long sleeves in the middle of a warm spell. When I asked her to show me her arms and saw those dark, purple, yellowish marks, I knew the world had split in two. There are moments in a mother's life when everything you were, everything you thought you were, disappears. And only one truth remains: protect your daughter, no matter the cost. This is the story of how I did it, and how I learned that justice, sometimes, doesn't come from the courts. It comes from a mother who has nothing left to lose. Before I tell you how everything broke, I need you to know how things were when they were still whole. I need you to see my daughter Claire, as I saw her, with her honey-coloured eyes, her laugh that filled the whole house, and that childhood habit she had of dancing barefoot in the kitchen while I made breakfast. Claire was born on a Tuesday in April, under a soft rain that smelled of wet earth and lilacs. From that day on, my life had a centre, a purpose, a reason to get up every morning, even if I had to take 2 buses to get to the DA's office, even if my shoes already had holes in the soles. I was a secretary, as I told you, but I wasn't just any secretary. For 28 years, I watched files pass through my hands: prosecutors, lawyers, police detectives. I saw cases I can't talk about, names I can't say. I learned that in this country, sometimes, justice doesn't come through the front door. It comes through the window, or a midnight phone call, or someone who knows someone who knows someone. But back then, I didn't care about any of that. I just wanted to get home, take off my shoes, and watch Claire do her homework at the dining room table. She was a good student, responsible, and she dreamed of studying graphic design. She wanted to design book covers, she said. She wanted her illustrations to tell stories before anyone even opened the first page. And she did it. She graduated with honours. She got a job at a small but respectable agency. She earned enough to help me with the bills. On Sundays, we would go together to the local farmers' market in Southend. We would buy corn, vine-ripe tomatoes, and bell peppers. I taught her to make beef stew, the way my grandmother made it, with bone marrow, chickpeas, and that final touch of fresh cilantro. She used to say no one cooked like me. Those were my happy days. Those were the days when I still believed that love was enough to protect someone. He arrived on a Saturday in March. His name was Robert Spencer, a civil engineer, 32 years old, slicked back hair, perfect smile, crisp, ironed shirt. Claire introduced him to me at a coffee shop near the public garden. She said they had been dating for 4 months, that he was different, that he treated her well. I observed him carefully, like all mothers do, right? You look for signs, you look for cracks, you look for something that tells you, this man is not for your daughter. But I didn't see anything. Robert was polite. He paid the bill without bragging. He opened the door for Claire. He spoke about his family with respect. He said his father was a retired teacher and his mother was a homemaker, that he was the oldest of 3 siblings, that he worked for a major construction company, overseeing projects in the metro area. Everything sounded good. Everything sounded secure. Claire was radiant. I saw her laugh in a way I hadn't seen in years. I saw her look at him with those bright eyes, full of hope, and I thought, maybe he is the one. Maybe this is the person my daughter will build her life with. How was I supposed to know I was watching the beginning of a nightmare? They got married a year later. A simple wedding, in the garden of a small hall in upstate New York. Claire wore a white lace dress with long sleeves and a modest neckline. I lent her the pearl earrings that had belonged to my mother. She cried when she put them on. "Mom, I'm so happy," she whispered to me while I helped her with the veil. And I believed her, because a mother always wants to believe her daughter when she says she's happy. Robert was attentive during the party. He danced with me. He called me mother-in-law affectionately. We toasted with bourbon and ginger ale. His family was large, loud, and joyful. I felt welcomed. I felt part of something. The first few months were good. Claire and Robert rented an apartment in Chelsea. I would visit them on Sundays. I would bring beef brisket tacos with cheese, cinnamon rolls, and hot chocolate in a thermos. We would eat together. Robert would tell me about his projects. Claire would show me her new designs on the computer. Everything seemed normal. Everything seemed to be in its place. But there are things a mother starts to notice, even if she doesn't want to. Small things. Like the way Robert would interrupt Claire when she was talking. How he would change the channel without asking her if she was watching something. How he would comment on her clothes. "Are you going out like that? That dress is too tight on you. Don't you think you should cover up more?" At first, I thought it was just him being protective. Healthy jealousy. Those things that happen with young couples. But then Claire started to change. She stopped wearing dresses. She started wearing long-sleeved blouses, even in the heat of May. She stopped putting on lipstick. She stopped laughing so often. When I would ask her if everything was okay, she would look away and say, "Yes, Mum, everything's perfect. It's just that work is stressful." But I knew her. I knew every one of my daughter's gestures, every silence, every white lie. And I knew something was wrong. One Sunday, she came to my house wearing dark sunglasses. In November, when the sky was cloudy, "I got a speck of dust in my eye," she said, without looking at me. I didn't say anything, but I felt a knot in my stomach. I made coffee. I took out the apple fritters I had bought at the corner bakery. We sat at the kitchen table. That old wooden table, scratched, full of memories. The same table where Claire did her elementary school homework, where we cried together when her grandmother died, where we celebrated her graduation with German chocolate cake. "Claire," I said, taking her hand, "look at me." She pressed her lips together, took off the glasses, and I saw the bruise. A yellowish bruise around her left eye, almost healed, but still visible. "I fell," she said quickly, "in the bathroom. I slipped on the rug." I didn't believe her, but I didn't push, because sometimes, when a mother pushes too hard, the daughter pulls away, and I couldn't lose her. Not yet. Sometimes we trust the wrong people too much, don't we? Have you also felt that anguish of watching someone you love change in front of your eyes and not knowing how to help? Tell me your story in the comments. I want to read it. I want to know I'm not alone in this. Because what came next, was worse than I ever imagined. And I would have to make a decision that would change everything. Fractures never happen all at once. They arrive slowly, like a crack in a wall that no one notices until one day, without warning, the whole house collapses. That's how it was with Claire. That's how it was with my daughter. After that Sunday of the bruised eye, 3 weeks passed without me seeing her. 3 long, heavy weeks, full of sleepless nights. I would call her. She would answer quickly. "I'm busy, Mum. I'll call you later." But she never called me. I would text her. "How are you, my love? Do you want me to bring you chicken noodle soup?" She would reply with a smiley face emoji. Thanks, Mum. Another day. But I knew something was wrong. I knew it in my bones, in that part of the body that mothers have connected directly to their children's hearts, that place where lies can't fit. It was a Tuesday in December when I saw her again. I had left the DA's office early. I had a dentist appointment at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but I cancelled it. Something told me I had to go look for her. Something in my chest was pulling me toward Chelsea, toward that apartment where my daughter lived with a man who seemed stranger to me every day. I rang the bell. Once. Twice. No one opened. I rang again. I insisted. Finally, I heard footsteps. The door opened just a crack. And there was Claire, with her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, a grey sweatshirt 3 sizes too big, and swollen eyes. "Mum," she said, without opening the door completely, "it's not a good time." "Can I come in?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "It's just that Robert is about to get here and—" "Just 10 minutes, my love. Please." She hesitated. She looked behind her as if someone might be listening. Finally, she opened the door. I went in. And what I saw broke my heart. The apartment was dark, the curtains closed, even though there was still daylight outside. The living room, which had been decorated with the artwork Claire had designed, was now empty. The walls were white, bare, the sofa was messy, with a crumpled blanket, the dining table covered with dirty dishes. "Claire, what happened here?" I asked, looking around. "Nothing, Mum. It's just that I haven't had time to clean." "And your artwork? Where are your designs?" She crossed her arms. "Robert said they looked too cluttered, that it's better to have clean walls, more minimal." Minimal. That word sounded hollow to me, false. I walked closer to her. The light that came through a crack in the curtain illuminated her face. And then I saw it. A scratch on her neck. Recent. Red. "Claire," I said, my voice trembling. "What is that?" She put her hand to her neck, covering it immediately. "I scratched myself on a branch. I went to the park yesterday and—" "Don't lie to me. Mum, please." "Claire O'Connell. I'm your mother. Don't lie to me." Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't say anything. She just shook her head, biting her lower lip like she did when she was a little girl and was trying not to cry. I took her arms, carefully with all the love I had. "Show me," I said. "What?" "Your arms. Show me." "Mum, no. Please." She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and slowly, very slowly, pulled up the sleeves of her sweatshirt. And there they were. Bruises. Several. In different shades, some purple, recent, others yellowish, already healing. Finger marks, grip marks. From someone who had held her tightly, violently, I felt the floor open up beneath my feet. "Claire, my girl, who did this to you?" She pulled away from me. She pulled her sleeves down quickly. She turned around. "No one, Mum. I bruise easily. I've always been like that." "Don't say that to me. Don't say that to me because I know it's not true." "Mum, please go. If Robert gets here and sees you, he's going to be mad." "And what if he gets mad? I'm your mother. I have the right to visit you." "It's not that simple." "Why not? What has that man done to you?" She turned around. She looked at me with those honey-coloured eyes that now looked empty, lost. Nothing, Mum. He hasn't done anything to me. It's just that it's complicated. We're going through a rough patch. All marriages go through this. Marriages don't go through this, I said, pointing at her arms. This isn't normal, Claire. This is… Stop it, she shouted, with a force that scared me. Stop, Mum. You don't know anything. You don't know what it's like to be married. You don't know what it's like to try to keep a family together. Her words hurt me more than any physical blow, because it was true. I never got married. Claire's father abandoned us when she was 2 years old. I raised her alone, on my secretary's salary, with my tired hands, with my knees that ached from cleaning other people's floors on weekends to pay for her school. But never, never had anyone laid a hand on me, and I had sworn that my daughter wouldn't allow it either. Claire, I said, my voice breaking, you don't deserve this. No one deserves this. She let herself fall onto the sofa. She hid her face in her hands, and she began to cry. A silent, contained cry, as if she had been holding it in for months. I sat next to her. I hugged her. I felt her body tremble against mine. It's not as bad as you think, Mum, she said between sobs. Robert, he has a lot of stress at work. The construction company is having problems. They took a big project away from him. He's frustrated. But he loves me. I know he loves me. Love doesn't hurt, my girl. But it's not perfect either. You yourself told me that relationships require sacrifice. Sacrifice doesn't mean letting yourself be hurt. She lifted her head. She looked at me with those swollen red eyes. So what do you want me to do, Mum? Leave him? Come back home with you like a failure? Prove right all the people who said I got married too fast, too young? I would rather have you alive and a failure than dead and proud. Those words came out of my mouth without thinking, but as soon as I said them, I knew they were true, because something inside me already knew. Something in me was already preparing for the worst. Just then we heard the door open. Claire jumped up. She wiped her tears with her sleeves. She straightened her hair. It's him, she whispered. Mum, please don't say anything. Don't mention it. Don't say you saw. Claire, please. Robert walked into the living room. He was carrying his black briefcase, his white shirt a little wrinkled, his tired face that immediately changed to surprise when he saw me. Mary, he said with a forced smile. What a surprise. I didn't know you were coming. I came to see my daughter, I replied, trying to stay calm. Of course, of course. You're always welcome. He looked at Claire. Why didn't you tell me your mother was coming? It was a spur-of-the-moment thing, Claire said quickly. Were you leaving? No, no, Robert said, dropping the briefcase on the floor. Stay for dinner. Claire can make something. Right, honey? It wasn't a question. It was an order. Claire nodded. Yes, of course. I'll go prepare something. She went to the kitchen. I stood there watching Robert. He stared back at me, and in his eyes I saw something that chilled my blood. Control, coldness, warning. Sit down, Mary, he said, pointing to the sofa. I'm going to change. I'll be back in a moment. He disappeared down the hall. I stayed there, in the middle of that dark living room, my heart pounding in my ears, and I knew in that moment that my daughter was in danger. A real danger. A danger that wasn't going to disappear on its own. Dinner was uncomfortable. Claire made cheese quesadillas with Monterey Jack and peppers. I barely took a bite. Robert talked about his job, the economy, the city traffic. He talked and talked, but his eyes always returned to Claire, watching her, controlling every gesture, every word. When we finished, I said goodbye. I hugged Claire at the door. I love you, I whispered in her ear. No matter what, I love you. She squeezed my hand. She didn't say anything, but I felt her goodbye. It was as if she were saying farewell to me. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on my bed, cell phone in hand, looking at the screen, thinking about calling someone. But who? The police? And tell them what? That my daughter has bruises but says she fell? That her husband looks at her strangely? In this country, that's not enough. In this country, women have to be dead for someone to do something. And I wasn't going to wait for my daughter to become a statistic. As I tell you all this, I wonder where you are listening to me. Maybe in your home, in the kitchen, while you do the dishes. Maybe on the bus, on your way back from work. Maybe in your bedroom, in the middle of the night, when you can't sleep. Write the name of your city in the comments. I want to know I'm not alone. I want to know there's someone there, on the other side, who understands what it feels like to carry this weight. Because what came next, what I did next, I still wonder if it was the right thing. But there was no turning back. There is a lie we mothers tell ourselves when we see our children suffering. If I don't make noise, if I don't push, if I keep quiet, everything will get better. But it doesn't get better. It never gets better. And silence only feeds the monster. After that uncomfortable dinner at Claire's apartment, I decided I had to be more careful, more strategic. Robert already suspected that I knew something, and if I pushed too hard, if I made too much of a fuss, I could lose access to my daughter completely. So I swallowed my rage, tucked away my fear, and started acting as if everything were fine, as if I hadn't seen those bruises, as if I hadn't noticed the terror in Claire's eyes when he walked through the door, as if I were a normal mother-in-law with a normal daughter in a normal marriage. But inside, I was dying. The weeks passed. December arrived with its cold air and Christmas lights. Boston filled with colour, music, people buying presents downtown. I continued with my routine at the DA's office, getting there at 8 o'clock in the morning, organising files, answering calls, making coffee for the prosecutors. But my mind was somewhere else. It was with Claire. I would text her every day. "Good morning, my love. How did you sleep?" She would reply in monosyllables. "Fine, all good, busy." I would ask if I could visit her. She always had an excuse. "Not today, Mum. I have work to finish. Robert and I are going out. I'm tired. Another day." But I kept insisting, gently, without pushing too hard, because I knew that if I lost her, if she shut down completely, I wouldn't be able to help her anymore. One Saturday in mid-December, I managed to convince her to go to the market with me, alone, without Robert. We agreed to meet at 10 o'clock in the morning at the North End Market. I arrived early with my shopping bag, with my mental list of what I needed to buy. Tomatoes, onions, cilantro, and jalapenos for the salsa. Claire arrived 15 minutes late. She was wearing dark sunglasses again, even though the day was cloudy. A long-sleeved beige blouse, black pants, white sneakers. Her hair pulled back in a tight braid. She looked thinner. She looked smaller. "Hi, Mum," she said, with a forced smile. I hugged her. I felt her bones. I felt how fragile she was. "Did you have breakfast?" I asked her. "Yes, I had coffee." "That's not breakfast. Let's go get some breakfast burritos before we do the shopping." "I'm not hungry, Claire. Really, Mum. I'm fine." She wasn't fine. Anyone could see it. But I didn't insist. I didn't want her to leave. I didn't want to lose those 2 hours I would have with her. We walked among the market stalls. The smell of spices, fresh fruit, and barbecue filled the air. I shopped slowly, looking for excuses to stretch out the time, haggling over $1 with the lady selling collard greens, asking about the family of the man who sells cheese, stopping at every stall, even if I didn't need anything. Claire walked beside me, quiet, her hands tucked into her pockets. "How is work going?" I asked, as I selected some avocados. "Fine. Same as always." "Are you still designing book covers?" "Not so much anymore. Now I do more corporate design. Logos, brochures, that kind of thing." "And do you like it?" She shrugged. "It pays well." It paid well, as if that were the only thing that mattered, as if the dream of creating illustrations that told stories had evaporated. We kept walking. We passed a flower stall. Red roses, white gladiolas, purple calla lilies. Claire stopped. She touched the petals of a rose with her fingertips. "Do you remember when you used to buy me flowers every time I got an A in school?" she said without looking at me. "Of course I remember. Yellow lilies, they were your favorite." "Yes." She barely smiled. "You used to say yellow was the color of joy." "And it is." She let go of the rose. She took off her glasses, and I saw her eyes, swollen, tired, with deep circles under them. "I don't feel joyful anymore, Mum," she whispered. Those words cut through me like a knife. We found a bench near the juice stand. We sat down. I bought 2 glasses of freshly squeezed orange juice. Claire took hers with both hands, as if she needed the warmth of the glass to hold herself up. "Claire," I said softly, "talk to me, please." She looked at the ground. "There's nothing to talk about." "Yes, there is. You're sad. You're thin. You almost never call me. And when you do, it sounds like you're scared." "I'm not scared." "Then what is wrong?" She took a deep breath. She closed her eyes. "Robert and I are going through a difficult time," she finally said. He is under a lot of pressure. His job isn't going well. He lost another project. The construction company is cutting staff. He's afraid he's going to get laid off. And that's why he hits you." The words came out of my mouth before I could stop them. Claire opened her eyes. She looked at me in a panic. "He doesn't hit me, Mum." "Claire, I saw the bruises. That was an accident. We argued. I pushed him. He held my arm very hard, but it wasn't intentional." "And the scratch on your neck?" "I scratched myself on a branch." "And the black eye from a month ago?" "I fell." Lie after lie, excuse after excuse. And the worst part was that she believed them, or worse, she wanted to believe them. "My love," I said, taking her hand, "listen to me carefully. Nothing that is happening at Robert's job justifies him hurting you. Nothing." "But you don't understand, Mum. He's not a bad man. He's just lost, frustrated. And I don't help him. I do things that make him mad." "What things?" "I don't know. Small things, like leaving the kitchen messy, or being late getting home from the agency, or not answering the phone when he calls me. He says I'm careless, that I don't pay attention, that I do it on purpose to make him feel bad." Hearing that broke my heart, because I recognized the words. They were the words of an abuser, a manipulator, someone who convinces their victim that the violence is their own fault. "Claire, that's not true. None of that is your fault." "But what if it is?" she said, her eyes filling with tears. "What if I'm the one doing everything wrong? And what if I'm the one who needs to change?" "Don't say that. It's the truth. Robert told me. He says that if I were a better wife, If I supported him more, if I didn't question him so much, things would be different. Claire O'Connell, look at me. She looked up. You are an incredible woman. You are smart. You are talented. And you are good. And you don't deserve for anyone to treat you like you are less than that. Her lips trembled. The tears began to fall. But I love him, Mum, she whispered. Despite everything, I love him. And there it was, the most painful truth of all. She loved him, and that's why she stayed. We spent the rest of the morning at the market. I bought more things than I needed, just to have more time with her. But when noon came, Claire's phone rang. She looked at the screen. Her face changed. It's Robert, she said, her voice tight. I have to go. So soon? He said he would pick me up. He must be close by. And you can't tell him we're still together? It's just, we're supposed to go out to lunch. With his parents. I can't be late. He was supposed to take her. It wasn't an invitation. It was an order. A check-in. We walked toward the market exit. I was carrying the shopping bags. Claire walked fast, nervous, checking her phone every 2 seconds. When we reached the street, I saw Robert's car, a grey SUV, double parked. He was behind the wheel, waiting. Thanks for keeping me company, Mum, she said, giving me a quick kiss on the cheek. Claire, wait. But she was already gone. She got into the SUV. Robert didn't even acknowledge me. He just drove off. I stood there, on the sidewalk, with my shopping bags, watching them drive away, and I felt something I had never felt in my life. Helplessness. The following days were hell. Claire stopped answering my texts. She stopped answering my calls. When I finally managed to talk to her, she said she was very busy, that she had a lot of work, that Robert and she were going to travel to Palm Beach, Florida, for Christmas with his family. And I asked her, aren't we going to spend Christmas together? I'm sorry, Mum. We already had plans, but I'll call you on New Year's, I promise. She didn't call me. I spent Christmas alone, in my house, with a plate of turkey sandwiches that I bought at the corner deli and a mug of hot cider that got cold before I could finish it. I put on music. I watched television. I tried to distract myself. But everything reminded me of her, the table where we had eaten dinner so many times, the photograph on the wall, the one where Claire was 8 years old and smiling without teeth, the Christmas tree that we had decorated together so many Decembers. And I wondered, when did I lose everything? When did I let that man take her away from me? It was on New Year's when something inside me changed. I was alone in my house, watching the fireworks from the window, when I received a text from Claire. Happy New Year, Mum. I love you. Just that. Not a call. Not a video call. Just a text. I replied, Happy New Year, my love. When can I see you? She didn't answer. And in that moment, I understood something. I couldn't save her if she didn't want to be saved. I couldn't protect her if she had decided to protect her abuser. But I wasn't going to stand by either. Not anymore. I went back to work on January 2nd. The DA's office was quiet, still in a holiday hangover mood. I sat at my desk, surrounded by files, papers, and folders full of cases that passed through my hands without anyone knowing that I had seen them. And I started to think. I started to remember. I remembered all those years working there, all those names I had filed away, all those phone numbers I had saved, all those contacts I never thought I would use. Detectives, police officers, prosecutors, people who owed me favors, people who had known me for 20 years, people who could help me if I asked. But I didn't do it yet. I still had hope that Claire would react, that she would open her eyes, that she would find the strength to leave. I still believed that a mother's love was enough. How wrong I was. Have you ever had to keep quiet so you wouldn't lose someone you love? Have you had to swallow the words, the tears, the rage, just to keep the door open? It's one of the greatest pains there is, because you're not losing that person to death or distance. You're losing them while they are still alive, while they are still breathing a few miles from you, and you can't do anything. Not yet. Tell me in the comments if you've been through something like that. I need to know I'm not crazy, that this pain is real. Because what came next, what I saw next, forced me to make the hardest decision of my life, and it changed everything, forever. There are things a mother knows without anyone telling her, things that you feel in the air, in the silence, in the unsaid words. And I knew something terrible was about to happen. I knew it in my bones. January passed slowly, heavily like a stone on my chest. Claire still didn't call me. I kept texting her. "Good morning, my love. How are you? I miss you." She would reply with emojis, a heart, a smiley face, but never with words. And that told me everything, because my daughter was always a woman of words. Since she was a child, she was the type to write long letters, the type to leave notes on the refrigerator. "Mum, I love you. Thanks for everything." Now she only sent empty symbols, as if she had run out of words, as if she no longer had the strength to write what she felt. It was a Monday in February when I received the first sign. I was at the DA's office, organizing closed case files, when my cell phone rang. An unknown number. Normally, I don't answer calls from numbers I don't know, but something made me slide my finger and accept. "Hello?" Silence. Breathing. "Hello?" I repeated. And then I heard her voice. "Mum?" It was Claire, but her voice sounded broken, shaky, as if she were crying or had just been crying. "Claire, my love, what's wrong?" I just wanted to hear your voice." "Where are you? Are you okay?" I'm at work, in the restroom. Robert doesn't know I called you." My heart stopped. "Why can't he know you called me?" Silence. "Claire, answer me. Answer. Why?" Because he gets mad when I talk to you. He says you put ideas in my head, that you make me doubt him." I felt a deep, burning rage rising in my throat. "My love, listen to me. You have to get out of there. You have to." "I can't, Mum. I can't. He checks my phone. He deletes your texts. He deletes your calls. I have to go. Someone just came into the restroom. I love you." "Claire, wait." The call ended. I stayed there, sitting at my desk, phone in hand, trembling. He checked her phone. He deleted my texts. He controlled her calls. That wasn't a difficult marriage anymore. That was a prison. I couldn't sleep that night. I lay there staring at the ceiling of my bedroom, thinking about what to do. Should I go look for her? Should I show up at her job? Should I go to their apartment and demand to see her? But I knew that if I did that, Robert would find a way to take her even further away, to move her, to change her job, to erase her from my life completely. I had to be smarter. I had to find evidence. I had to document everything. Because in this country, a mother saying, "My daughter is in danger," is not enough. In this country, you need evidence. You need irrefutable proof. And I was going to get it. The next day, I did something I never thought I would do. I asked a favor from someone at the DA's office. His name was Javier Mendez, a detective, 52 years old. He had been on the force for 25 years. I had known him since I first started working there, fresh out of high school. with my first formal job and my old shoes. Javier was always kind to me. He brought me coffee when I was late. He covered for me when I had to leave early for an emergency with Claire. He had gone to my daughter's graduation. He had helped me when my mother died, and I didn't have the money for the funeral. He was one of the few good men I knew, and I needed his help. I found him in the DA's office cafeteria, drinking a strong coffee and checking his phone. "Javier," I said, sitting down across from him, "I need to talk to you." He looked up, looked at me, and knew immediately that something was wrong. "What's up, Mary?" I didn't know where to start, so I started at the beginning. I told him everything: the bruises, the isolation, Claire's call from the bathroom, the control Robert had over her. Javier listened in silence, his brow furrowed, with that look of a detective who has seen too many horrible things in his life. When I finished, he sighed. "Mary, I understand your concern, but without a formal complaint, without Claire coming in and saying she's being assaulted, we can't do anything." "I know, but I need to know more about him, about Robert Spencer, his history, if he has any record, if anyone else has filed a complaint against him." "You want me to investigate your son-in-law?" "Yes." Javier hesitated. "Mary, that's sensitive. If he finds out—" "He won't find out, please, Javier. It's my daughter." He looked me in the eyes, saw my desperation, my fear, my determination. "Give me his full name and date of birth," he finally said. I gave them to him. He wrote everything down on his phone. "I don't promise anything, but I'll see what I find. Thank you." "Thank you, Javier." He put his hand over mine. "Be careful, Mary. If this guy is what you think he is, he's not going to let you get in his way without consequences." His words chilled my blood, but there was no turning back. 3 days passed. 3 endless days, during which I continued my routine as if nothing were wrong. I arrived at the DA's office, organized papers, answered calls, smiled when someone asked how I was, but inside I was crumbling. Finally, on Thursday afternoon, Javier looked for me. He signaled to me with his head. We walked out of the office. We walked to the parking lot. He lit a cigarette, something he only did when he was nervous. "What did you find?" I asked him. He took a long drag. He exhaled the smoke slowly. "Robert Spencer has no criminal record. He's never been arrested, never had a restraining order against him." I felt the ground open up beneath my feet. "But," Javier continued, "I made some calls. I spoke with an acquaintance who works in another DA's office in Brooklyn, New York, and I found something." "What?" "4 years ago, a woman filed a complaint for domestic violence against Robert Spencer. Her name was Danielle Osborne. They lived together. According to the file, he physically assaulted her on several occasions. She presented photos of the injuries, witness testimony from neighbors, even a medical report." My breath hitched. "And what happened to the case?" "It was closed. Danielle withdrew the complaint 2 weeks later. She said it had been a misunderstanding, that she was exaggerating, that Robert wasn't violent." "And you believe her?" Javier looked at me sadly. "No, I don't believe her. I've seen hundreds of cases like this, Mary. The woman files a complaint. The abuser pressures her, threatens her, manipulates her. She withdraws the complaint, and the cycle continues." "Do you know where that woman is now, Danielle?" "I looked, but she doesn't show up in any recent records. She changed her address, closed her social media. It's as if she disappeared." Or as if she was made to disappear, I thought. That information confirmed what I already knew in my heart. Robert wasn't a man with temper problems. He wasn't a husband frustrated by work. He was an abuser, an experienced abuser, with a pattern, with a history, and my daughter was his new victim. 2 weeks later, I received the second sign. It was a Saturday. I was at the supermarket buying groceries when I felt someone watching me. I turned around, and there, at the end of the aisle, was Claire. But she wasn't alone. Robert was with her, pushing the cart, selecting products, checking prices. Claire walked beside him, quiet, her head down, her hands tucked into the pockets of a huge jacket that seemed to swallow her. I hid behind a shelf. I didn't want them to see me. I didn't want to cause a scene. But I watched them. I saw how Robert spoke to her, how she nodded, how he made decisions about what to buy and what not to buy, how she didn't offer an opinion, didn't choose, didn't exist. She was a ghost next to her husband. When they passed close to me, I heard part of their conversation. "Why did you buy Greek yogurt?" Robert said in an annoyed tone. "You know I don't like it." "Sorry, I thought that." "You thought. You never think, Claire. That's why we always do things wrong." She lowered her head. "Sorry. Next time, ask me before you grab anything. Understood?" Yes, I had to bite my tongue to keep from screaming, from running out and hitting him right there, in front of everyone, regardless of the consequences. But I stayed still. I waited for them to move away. And when they finally disappeared into the aisles, I left the supermarket without buying anything. I arrived home. I locked myself in my bedroom. And I cried. I cried for my daughter. I cried for my helplessness. I cried because I didn't know how to get her out of there. But crying doesn't solve anything. So the next day, I made a decision. I was going to go see her, without warning, without asking permission. If Robert was there, I would have to endure it. But I needed to see my daughter. I needed to look her in the eyes. I needed to tell her she wasn't alone, that I was still there, that I would always be there. I arrived at their apartment one Sunday afternoon. I rang the bell. Once. Twice. No one opened. I rang again. I insisted. Finally, the door opened, and what I saw shattered me. Claire was there, her face swollen, her eyes red, her lips split, bleeding, fresh. "Mom," she whispered. Her voice was broken. I didn't say anything. I just hugged her. She collapsed in my arms. She cried like I hadn't seen her cry since she was a child. A deep, heartbreaking, desperate cry. "I can't do this anymore, Mum," she sobbed. "I just can't." "I know, my love, I know." I led her inside. I sat her on the sofa. I looked for ice in the refrigerator. I put it on her lip. "Where is he?" I asked. "He went out. He said he was going to buy cigarettes, but he'll be back soon." "Claire, you have to leave, now, with me. Grab your things and let's go." She shook her head. "I can't." "Yes, you can. Don't you understand, Mum? If I leave, he's going to look for me. He's going to find me. And it's going to be worse. I will protect you. You can't protect me from him. No one can." Her words broke me, because she was right. In this country, women are not protected. Restraining orders don't work. Complaints don't work. Abusers always find a way to come back. Always. But I wasn't going to give up. "Claire, look at me," I said, taking her face in my hands. "We are going to get out of this, together, but I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" She looked at me with those honey-coloured eyes full of tears. "How, Mum? How are you going to get me out of here?" I didn't have an answer. Not yet. But I knew I had to find one. I stayed with her until we heard the sound of Robert's SUV parking outside. Claire immediately panicked. "You have to go, Mum. Please." If he sees you here, I don't care. Please, please go. I didn't want to leave. I wanted to stay. I wanted to confront him. I wanted to scream everything I had been holding in for months. But I saw the terror in my daughter's eyes, and I understood that if I stayed, she would pay the consequences. It's okay, I said. I'm going, but I'll call you tomorrow, and we'll find a way to fix this. She nodded. She walked me to the door. She hugged me tight. I love you, Mum. I love you too, more than you know. I left just as Robert was getting out of the SUV. He saw me. He frowned. Mary, he said dryly, what are you doing here? I came to see my daughter. Any problem? No, no problem. But next time, call ahead. We're not always available. I didn't respond. I just got into my car and drove away. But as I drove back home, I made a decision. I wasn't going to wait anymore. I wasn't going to beg Claire to leave anymore. I was going to do what I had to do, no matter the cost. Have you ever discovered something terrible about someone you love, and you didn't know what to do with that information? Have you felt that helplessness of having the pieces of the puzzle, but not being able to put together the full picture until it's too late? It's one of the cruelest pains, because you scent the danger. You smell it in the air, but no one else sees it. And they tell you that you're exaggerating, that you're being dramatic, until the inevitable happens. Tell me if you've lived through something like that. I need to know you understand this fear, because what happened next, what I saw next, was the last straw, and it forced me to use all my resources, all my contacts, everything I had learned in 28 years working at the DA's office. Even if it meant crossing lines I never thought I would cross. There are moments in life that change you forever. Moments when everything you thought you knew about yourself, about the world, about justice, crumbles. And you have to decide who you really are. If you're one of those who stay quiet, or one of those who take action. It was a Wednesday in March when my world finally broke. I had left the DA's office early. I had a dentist appointment at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but I cancelled it. I couldn't stop thinking about Claire. I couldn't stop seeing her split lip, her empty gaze, her body flinching every time she heard a noise. I decided to stop by her apartment again, without calling, just to see if she was okay. Or so I told myself. The truth is, I couldn't breathe without knowing she was alive. I arrived in Chelsea around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The sky was cloudy, threatening rain. I parked my car half a block from their building. I walked up the stairs slowly, my heart pounding in my ears. I rang the doorbell. No one answered. I rang again. I waited. Nothing. I was about to leave when I heard something. A noise, like something falling, and then a muffled scream. Claire! I didn't think. I pounded on the door with my fist. Claire, open up! It's me! Silence. Claire, open the door! More noise inside. Footsteps, something dragging. And then the door opened, not completely, just a crack. And there she was. But it wasn't my daughter. It was a ghost. A spectre, a body without a soul. Her left eye was completely closed, swollen, purple, black, blue. Her lip was split again, deeper than last time, a scratch on her cheek. And when she opened the door a little more, I saw her arms covered in bruises, fresh bruises, different sizes, finger marks, hand marks, blows. My God, I whispered. Claire began to cry, a silent cry. No sound, just falling tears. Mum, I didn't want you to see me like this. I pushed the door open. I went in. I took her in my arms carefully, as if she were made of glass, because that's how she felt. Fragile, broken, about to fall apart completely. "What did he do to you?" I asked. My voice was shaking. "What did that bastard do to you?" She didn't answer. She just held on to me and cried. I led her to the sofa. I looked for the first aid kit. I took out peroxide, cotton balls, bandages. I cleaned her wounds slowly, trying not to hurt her more. But every time I touched her skin, she flinched, as if every touch was painful. "Claire," I said softly, "tell me what happened." She closed her eyes. She took a deep breath, and she began to speak. "Last night, he came home late, drunk. I was asleep. He woke me up screaming, saying the house was dirty, that I was useless, that I was good for nothing." Her voice broke. I told him I was sorry, that I would clean in the morning, but he kept screaming, saying I always have excuses, that I'm a burden, that he regrets marrying me. The tears kept falling. And then he grabbed my arm, very hard. He pulled me out of bed. I tried to break free, and he shoved me. I fell against the wall. My face hit the doorframe. I felt the rage consume me inside. And after he went into the other room. He locked himself in. I stayed on the floor. I don't know for how long, until I could get up. I went into the bathroom. I washed my face. I saw the mirror. And she covered her face with her hands. "I don't recognize myself anymore, Mom. I don't know who I am anymore." I hugged her. I rocked her like when she was a little girl, like when she had nightmares, and I would rock her until she fell asleep. "This is over, Claire. Today. Now. You're coming home with me." "I can't." "Yes, you can. We're going to grab your things." "I can't," she shouted, pulling away. "You don't understand. He's going to find me. He always finds me." "What are you talking about?" She bit her lip. She looked at the floor. "I tried to leave before, Mum. 2 months ago. I packed a suitcase while he was at work. I was going to go to your house, but when I got to the door, he was there, waiting for me." Her voice broke. "He told me he had put a tracker on my cell phone, that he always knows where I am, what I'm doing, who I'm talking to, and that if I tried to leave again, he would find me. And then he really wouldn't have mercy." I felt the world stop. A tracker. He was watching her, controlling every move. That man wasn't just an abuser, he was a predator. And my daughter was his prey. "Claire, listen to me," I said, taking her face carefully. "We are going to get out of this, together, but I need you to let me help you." "How, Mum? How are you going to help me? The police don't do anything. Complaints don't work. Restraining orders are just paper. You yourself work at the DA's office. You know they won't protect me." She was right. I had seen hundreds of cases. Women who filed complaints, who asked for help, who begged for protection, and ended up dead because the system doesn't work, because justice arrives late or never arrives. We stayed there, sitting on that sofa, in that apartment that smelled of fear and hopelessness, when we heard the key in the lock. Claire went pale. "It's him," she whispered. "Mom, you have to go. Please." "I'm not leaving. Please, no!" The door opened, and there was Robert Spencer, with his wrinkled shirt, his loose tie, his gaze cold as ice. He saw both of us, Claire, crying with fresh wounds, me, standing, protecting her. And he smiled, a twisted, cruel smile full of contempt. "Mary," he said, closing the door behind him. What a surprise to see you here again. I came to take my daughter home, I said with a firm voice. He laughed, a dry, humorless laugh. Take her? Where? To your little house? To your miserable secretary life? Anywhere, away from you. Claire's not going anywhere. She's my wife. She lives here, with me. She is not your property. No. He stepped closer. I didn't back down. I stood there, planted between him and my daughter. Tell her, Claire. Tell your mother that you are my wife, that you love me, that this is just a misunderstanding. I looked at Claire. Her head was down, trembling. Claire, I said, look at me. Let's go now. Robert laughed again. She's not going to leave, because she knows what happens if she leaves. And what's going to happen? I asked, taking a step toward him. What are you going to do to her? Hit her more? Kill her? He leaned toward me. His breath smelled of alcohol and cigarettes. I don't have to do anything, Mary. She always comes back. Always. Because she needs me. Because without me, she is nothing. And in that moment, something inside me broke. All the upbringing, all the respect, all the patience broke. You are trash, I told him. A coward. A man who needs to hit a woman to feel strong. His smile disappeared. Watch what you say, old lady. Or what? Are you going to hit me too? Mum, no, Claire pleaded, but I couldn't stop myself anymore. I know you, Robert Spencer. I know your history. I know about Danielle Osborne. I know you did the same thing to her, and probably to others before. His face changed, the mask fell, and what remained was pure rage. You've been investigating me. Who do you think you are? I am Claire's mother, and I will not allow you to keep hurting her. He took a step toward me, menacingly. Get out of my house, now. No. I said get out. Make me leave. Claire stood up. Mum, please, let's go. But Robert looked at me intently, with hatred, with contempt, with that sick superiority that men have who believe they can do whatever they want. And then he said the words that would change everything. And what are you going to do about it, old lady? He said it with a smile, mockingly, as if I were an insect he could crush. What are you going to do? Call the police? Report me? Take me to court? He stepped closer, crossed his arms, looked me up and down. Go ahead. Try it. But you already know how this works. You already know they won't listen to you. That Claire will say it's a lie, that everything is fine, that it was an accident. Like always. He looked at Claire. Right, honey. Claire didn't answer. She just lowered her head, and Robert looked back at me. So tell me, Mary, what are you going to do? I didn't answer him with words. I took my cell phone out of my pocket. He frowned. What are you doing? I opened the camera. What are you doing? He repeated warningly. I raised the phone, and I took a picture of him. Him standing there, with that arrogant smile, with that posture of superiority, with that certainty that he was untouchable. Click. The photo was saved. Robert looked at me, confused. Then he laughed. A photo? Seriously, is that the best you've got? I didn't say anything. I opened my contacts. I searched for a number I had saved years ago, a number I never thought I would use, a number from someone who owed me a favor, a very big favor. Robert was still laughing. Who are you going to send that to? Your girlfriends? Facebook? Please, Mary, don't be ridiculous. I attached the photo. I wrote an address, the one for the apartment where we were. I wrote a name, Robert Spencer, and I sent the message to that number. Robert stopped laughing when he saw my face, because I was no longer afraid. I no longer had doubts. I only had certainty. It's done, I told him. What's done? What are you talking about? I didn't answer him. I took Claire's hand. Let's go. Where do you think you're going? Robert said, blocking the door. Get out of the way. I'm not moving. No one leaves here until you tell me what you did. I looked at my watch. 4:00, 23 minutes in the afternoon. In 30 minutes, I told him. You'll understand. He looked at me as if I were crazy. 30 minutes? What the hell are you saying? I didn't answer him. I simply waited. The next 30 minutes were the longest of my life. Robert paced back and forth, nervous, looking at me suspiciously. Claire was sitting on the sofa, trembling, not understanding what was happening. I just watched my cell phone, waiting. At 4:00, 42 minutes, I heard the noise. Footsteps in the hallway. Lots of footsteps. Robert heard them too. He froze. And then there was a knock on the door. It wasn't a polite knock. It was a loud, authoritative knock. Police! Open the door! Robert's face changed. From arrogant to confused. From confused to scared. What did you do? He asked me, his voice shaking. What I had to do. They knocked again. Harder. Open the door or we'll break it down. Robert looked at me. Then he looked at Claire. Then he looked at the door. I didn't do anything, he said, panic in his voice. I didn't do anything. Claire, tell them I didn't do anything. But Claire didn't say anything. She just looked at me. And in her eyes, I saw something I hadn't seen in months. Hope. Robert opened the door, and 4 police detectives walked in. One of them was Javier Mendez. Robert Spencer, Javier said, in an official voice. You have an immediate detention warrant for suspicion of aggravated domestic violence and threats. You need to come with us. What? This is a mistake. I haven't done anything. You can explain it at the DA's office. Let's go. No, this is her fault, Robert screamed, pointing at me. She set me up. It's a trap. Javier looked at him coldly. Are you coming the easy way or the hard way? Robert looked at me, with hatred, with rage, with helplessness. And he understood. He understood that he had underestimated the old secretary. He understood that I wasn't a mother begging, I was a mother protecting. And that was the most dangerous thing in the world. They took him away in handcuffs, screaming, saying it was unfair, that he hadn't done anything, that he was going to sue me. But it no longer mattered, because for the first time in months, my daughter was safe. When they were gone, Claire collapsed in my arms, crying, trembling, releasing all the fear, all the pain, all the weight she had been carrying for so long. It's over, my love, I whispered. It's over. Javier stayed for a moment in the doorway. He looked at me, he nodded, and he left without saying a word. Because he understood. He knew that sometimes justice doesn't come from the courts. It comes from a mother who has nothing left to lose. I still ask myself if I did the right thing. And you? What would you have done in my place? How far would you have gone to protect someone you love? Tell me. Because sometimes the hardest decisions are the ones that define us. And what came next, what happened with Robert, was more than I ever imagined. Because justice, when it finally arrives, is unforgiving. There are victories that don't feel like victories. There are moments when you do the right thing, but the price is so high that you wonder if it was worth it. This was one of those moments. When the officers took Robert away, the apartment was left in a heavy silence. a silence that buzzed in my ears, as if the air itself was waiting to see what would happen next. Claire was still in my arms, crying, trembling. I held her tightly, as if simply letting go would mean losing her again. "Mum," she said, her voice broken. "What did you do? Who did you send that picture to?" I took a deep breath. I knew this moment would come, the moment when I would have to explain that I had crossed a line I never thought I would cross. "I have contacts," I told her, stroking her hair. "From my years at the DA's office, people who owe me favors, people who can move things quickly when necessary." "What kind of contacts?" I didn't answer her directly because the truth was complicated. The truth was that after 28 years working at the DA's office, I knew people who operated in the shadows, people who didn't appear in organizational charts, people who solved problems when the system failed. I had sent that photo to one of them, a special prosecutor, someone who had worked high-profile cases, someone whose career I once saved by not reporting a serious error in a file that would have ended with his dismissal. He owed me a favor, and I had just collected it. "Claire, listen to me," I told her, taking her face carefully. "What I did might have consequences. For me, for you, but I couldn't stand by and watch you die little by little. I don't know yet what kind of consequences, but what I do know is that right now Robert is in custody, and that gives us time. Time for you to recover. Time for you to decide what you want to do." She wiped her tears with the back of her hand, looked around the apartment, the empty walls, the furniture that no longer felt like hers, the life she had built with a man who destroyed her. "I can't stay here," she whispered. "You don't have to stay. Let's go to my house now." "But the things don't matter right now. You matter right now." She nodded. She stood up with difficulty, as if every movement hurt, and it probably did. Not just her body, but her soul, too. We packed the essentials in an old suitcase we found in the closet. Clothes, personal documents, her computer, some photographs that still mattered to her. Photos from when she was a child, of her grandmother, of the two of us in better times. We left everything else. The furniture Robert had chosen, the dishes he had bought, the artwork he had hung after taking hers down. None of that mattered. While we packed, Claire stopped in front of the bathroom mirror. She looked at herself. She touched her swollen eye with her fingertips, her split lip, the bruises on her neck. "I don't know who this woman is," she said, her voice broken. I walked closer. I stood behind her. I put my hands on her shoulders. "She's a woman who survived, who resisted, who is here, alive, breathing. And that's all that matters." She closed her eyes. The tears began to fall again. "And now what, Mum? What's going to happen now?" "Now we are going to live, one day at a time." We left the apartment around 6 o'clock in the evening. The sky had darkened. The rain that had been threatening all day finally began to fall. Thick, heavy drops that hit the pavement hard. We got into the car. I drove in silence. Claire was in the passenger seat, looking out the window, watching the city pass by. Boston with its lights turning on one by one. People leaving work, families eating dinner in restaurants, normal life. Life that she had lost so long ago that she no longer remembered what it felt like. When we arrived at my house, I helped her out of the car. We went inside. The familiar smell of my home enveloped her. Coffee, candles, clean, safe. "Go take a shower," I told her. "I'll make some dinner." She nodded. She disappeared down the hall toward the bathroom. I heard the water running, and I stood there, in the kitchen, my hands trembling. I had saved my daughter. But at what cost? That night, Claire fell asleep in her old bedroom, the bedroom where she grew up, where she dreamed, where she was happy. I stayed awake, sitting at the kitchen table, with a cup of tea that got cold before I took a sip. My cell phone was on the table, staring at me, accusing me. I grabbed it. I opened my texts. I had a new one, from the number I had sent Robert's photo to. It's done. But be careful. This isn't going to end here. I felt a shiver run down my spine. The next morning, things started to get complicated. I went to work as usual. Claire stayed home, sleeping, recovering. When I arrived at the DA's office, Javier was waiting for me at the entrance. "We need to talk," he said with a serious face. He led me to an empty office. He closed the door. "Mary, do you know what you got yourself into?" "What are you talking about?" "Robert Spencer. We detained him yesterday like you asked. But when we started investigating further, we found things." "What kind of things?" Javier rubbed his face. "He has connections. Connections with important people. His boss at the construction company is buddies with a local congressman. They're already putting pressure on us to release him. They're saying it's an arbitrary detention, that there isn't enough evidence." I felt the ground move beneath my feet. "But Claire has bruises. She has injuries. That's evidence. She would have to file a formal complaint and testify. She will do it." "Are you sure?" I wasn't sure. Claire was still in shock. She was still processing everything. She still loved that man, as sick as that sounded. "I'll talk to her," I said. "Do it fast, because if she doesn't file a complaint within 48 hours, we'll have to release him. And when he gets out, he's going to be furious." I arrived home at noon. I found Claire sitting on the living room sofa, watching television without really seeing it. She had a blanket over her shoulders, her hair loose, her face washed but still swollen. "Claire, we need to talk." She turned off the television. She looked at me with those tired eyes. "You need to file a formal complaint against Robert. Today." Her face changed. "A complaint?" "Yes. With photographs of your injuries. With your testimony. It's the only way we can keep him detained." "Mom, I can't." "Yes, you can." "No, I can't go to a DA's office and tell everyone everything he did to me. In front of strangers. In front of people who are going to judge me." "No one is going to judge you." "Everyone is going to judge me. They're going to ask why I stayed. Why didn't I leave earlier? Why did I put up with it for so long? And I don't have the answers, Mum. I don't know why. I just know I was trapped. And now that I'm finally out, I don't want to relive it all." I understood her fear. I understood her pain. But I also knew that if she didn't file a complaint, Robert would be released, and he would come for her. "Claire, listen to me," I said, sitting next to her. "I understand it's difficult. I understand it's painful. But if you don't do this, he's going to get out. And when he gets out, he's going to be angrier than ever. He's going to look for you. And next time—" I didn't finish the sentence, but we both knew how it ended. The next time she wouldn't survive. She covered her face with her hands. "I can't, Mum. I don't have the strength." "Then I will give you mine. We're going to go together. I'm going to be by your side the whole time. You won't be alone." She looked at me, silent tears falling. "And what if they don't believe me? What if they say I'm lying?" "You are not lying, and the injuries on your face are proof of that." She took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and finally nodded. "Okay, I'll do it." We went to the DA's office that same afternoon. We walked in through the front door. I held her hand, squeezing it, reminding her that she wasn't alone. The receptionist looked at us. She recognized Claire immediately. The bruises were impossible to ignore. "How can I help you?" she asked kindly. "We're here to file a complaint for domestic violence," I said. They directed us to an office. A female detective received us. She was young, no older than 30 years old. Hair pulled back, impeccable uniform, professional but compassionate gaze. "Good afternoon. My name is Detective Sofia Rodriguez. Which of you is filing the complaint?" "Me," Claire said, her voice barely audible. "All right. I'm going to need you to tell me in your own words what happened. Take your time. There's no rush." Claire began to speak, and I listened. I heard things I didn't know, details she had never told me. She talked about the first time Robert pushed her. It was 6 months after they got married. She had been late returning from a meeting with friends. He was upset. He said she hadn't told him, that he didn't like her going out without him. They argued. He shoved her against the wall. Then he cried. He apologized. He said it would never happen again. But it happened again, over and over. She talked about the times he insulted her. Fat, ugly, useless. "No one else will ever want you. You're lucky I put up with you." She talked about the times he woke her up in the middle of the night to scream at her, to check her cell phone, to ask her who she had talked to accuse her of things she never did. She talked about the tracker on her phone, the control over her money, how he took her paycheck and only gave her enough for transportation and food. She talked about the time he locked her in the bathroom for 3 hours because she had talked to a coworker. She talked about the time he destroyed her laptop because she was working on a project and didn't pay attention to him. She talked about the last beating, the one I saw, the one that made me decide to act. And as she spoke, I cried. I cried because I hadn't been there to protect her. I cried because my daughter had suffered so much and I didn't know it. I cried because the system that is supposed to protect women had failed. Detective Rodriguez took notes on everything. She took photographs of Claire's injuries. She had a forensic medical exam done. She documented every bruise, every scratch, every mark. When we finished, it was almost 7 o'clock in the evening. "What's going to happen now?" Claire asked. "We are going to process your complaint. Mr. Robert Spencer will be formally charged. Charges will be filed against him. And depending on the judge, he may remain in pretrial detention or be released on bail with a restraining order." "How long will all this take?" "Months, maybe years. It depends on many factors." Claire broke down. "I can't live for years fearing he'll get out and come for me." Detective Rodriguez put her hand over Claire's. "I know it's difficult, but you did the right thing by filing a complaint, and we are going to do everything possible to protect you." But I knew those words weren't enough, because everything possible in this country is often not enough. We left the DA's office at nightfall. The air was cool. The streets were lit up. Boston was still alive, moving, breathing. But we were dead tired. We got to the car. We got in. We sat there, in silence. "Mum," Claire said after a while, "thank you." "You don't have to thank me." "Yes, I do. Because no one else did. No one else believed me. No one else took a risk for me." I hugged her, tight, as if I could absorb all her pain. "I'm always going to be here for you, no matter what." But things got worse before they got better. The next day, I received a call from an unknown number. "Mary O'Connell?" a harsh male voice said. "Yes. Who is this?" "This is Robert's father. I need to speak with you." I felt a knot in my stomach. "I have nothing to talk about with you." "Of course you do. My son is in jail because of you. You and your daughter put him there. Your son is in jail because he beat my daughter, not because of me." Those are lies. Robert is not violent. He is a good man, a good husband. He is going through a difficult time, and instead of supporting him, you destroyed him. Rage rose in my throat. Your son is an abuser, and if you can't see it, it's because you don't want to see it. Watch what you say, ma'am. My family has resources. We have lawyers. We are going to clear my son's name, and when we do, we are going to sue you for damages, for defamation, for ruining his reputation. Go ahead. Try it. This is not going to end here. He hung up. I stood there with the phone in my hand, trembling. The following days were hell. Robert's family started calling, sending texts, and pressuring us. His mother sent me a long text message saying that I was a bad mother for putting ideas in Claire's head, that her son loved her, that everything was a misunderstanding, that if Claire went back to him, everything would be resolved. His siblings looked for me on social media, commenting on my old posts, saying I was a liar, that I was manipulating my daughter, that my family was broken because I never had a man to put me in my place. I received anonymous calls, veiled threats. Be careful. This is not going to end well. You're going to regret it. And Claire received them too. Messages from mutual friends, people she had met through Robert, people who took his side. How could you do this to him? He gave you everything. You are ungrateful. I hope God forgives you for ruining his life. Claire began to doubt. One night I found her crying in her bedroom. Mum, what if they're right? What if I exaggerated? What if Robert really loved me and I ruined everything? I sat next to her. I took her face in my hands. Claire, look at me. That man hit you, humiliated you, controlled you. That is not love. That was never love. But his family says his family is protecting him because they don't want to see the truth, because accepting that their son is an abuser means accepting that they failed as parents. It's easier to blame you. But I loved him, Mum. I know, and that's the cruelest part, that a person can love someone who destroys them. But loving someone doesn't mean staying. Sometimes loving someone means leaving. It means saving yourself. She cried in my arms and I cried with her, because I understood that this battle was not only legal, it was emotional, it was psychological, and it was just beginning. A week later, we received the news. Robert had been released on bail with a restraining order. He couldn't go near Claire within 200 yards. He couldn't call her. He couldn't look for her. But we both knew that wouldn't stop him. A restraining order is just a piece of paper. And paper doesn't stop bullets. It doesn't stop blows. It doesn't stop a man who believes he has a right over a woman. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the living room with the lights off, watching the street through the window, waiting for him to appear, waiting for him to take his revenge, because I knew he would come. Men like Robert always come back. Always. And when he did, I had to be prepared. Have you ever had to defend a decision that you knew was right, but everyone told you was wrong? Have you felt that loneliness of being on the right side but without support? It's one of the hardest battles because you're not just fighting the abuser. You're fighting his family, against friends who don't want to see, against a system that fails you, and sometimes even against the very person you're trying to save. Tell me if you've been through something like that, because I need to know there's someone out there who understands. Because what came next was worse than I imagined. Much worse. There are nights when the fear is so great that it won't let you breathe. And there are nights when fear turns into something else. Into clarity. Into determination. Into peace. 2 weeks passed since Robert was released on bail. 2 weeks in which I lived with my heart in my throat. 2 weeks in which every noise on the street made me jump. Every unknown call chilled my blood. Every shadow at the window made me think it was him. But he didn't appear. Not directly. Because Robert was smarter than that. He knew that if he violated the restraining order, he would go back to jail. So he found other ways to make us feel his presence. Flowers started arriving at the house. Big, expensive bouquets, with cards that said, "For Claire, with love." They weren't signed, but we both knew who sent them. Claire threw them in the trash without opening them. But I saw her hands shake every time the doorbell rang, and there was a delivery person at the door. Then the messages started. Not directly to her cell phone, that would have been evidence, but through other people. A distant cousin of Robert's sent a text to Claire. "Robert asked me to tell you he misses you, that he's sorry, that he wants to talk to you. A former co-worker. I ran into your husband. He looks really bad, really sad. I think you should give him a chance to explain. Even the owner of the supermarket where we shopped. Your husband came in and left money for you. He says to give it to you because he's worried you don't have enough." Every message was an invasion. Every indirect contact was a form of control, of reminding Claire that he was still there, watching, waiting. Claire started deteriorating again. Not physically. Her bruises were healing, her lip was no longer split, her eye had gone down. But emotionally she was breaking. "Mom, I can't live like this," she told me one night, sitting at the kitchen table, always scared, always waiting for him to appear, always feeling like he's watching me. "I know, my love. What if it never ends? What if years pass and he keeps looking for me? What if the trial drags on and I have to see him in court? What if—" "Stop," I said, taking her hand. "You can't live in the what-ifs. You can only live in the now. But the now is scary. I know, but you're alive, you're here, and that's what matters." She looked at me with those tired eyes. Sometimes I think it would have been easier to stay, to endure a little longer. At least then I would know what to expect. Those words broke my heart, because I understood something terrible. Abuse teaches you to prefer the hell you know over uncertain freedom. It was that same night when something changed in me. I was alone in my bedroom, sitting on the bed, with the lights off, when I realized something. I had saved my daughter from the abuser, but I hadn't saved her from the fear, and fear was another form of prison. Robert didn't need to be physically present to control her. His shadow was enough, his silent threat, the possibility that he could appear at any moment. That kept her chained, and I didn't know how to break those chains. The next day, I did something I hadn't done in months. I went to church. I am not an especially religious woman. I go to church on Christmas, on Easter, when someone gets married or dies. But that morning I needed a quiet place, a place where I could think, where I could find something similar to peace. I went into the St. Francis of Assisi parish near my house. It was almost empty, just a few elderly ladies praying the rosary, candles lit, the smell of incense and flowers. I sat on a bench in the back, closed my eyes, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't think about Robert. I didn't think about the fear. I didn't think about revenge. I only thought about my daughter, about the little girl who used to dance barefoot in the kitchen, about the young woman who dreamed of designing book covers, about the woman she had been before meeting that man. And I asked myself, how do I help her get that back? How do I help her be truly free? The answer came in an unexpected place. When I left the church, I ran into Sister Teresa, a nun I had met years ago when I took Claire to catechism classes. She was older, close to 70 years old, with a face full of wrinkles that looked like maps of wisdom. "Mary," she said with a warm smile, "long time no see. Sister Teresa, it's good to see you. How is your daughter? Claire, right? And I don't know why. Maybe because I needed to say it out loud. Maybe because she had that face of someone who has seen a lot of pain in her life. I told her everything. I told her about the abuse, the complaint, the fear, and how Claire was alive, but not living. She listened to me in silence. When I finished, she put her wrinkled hand over mine. Mary, there is something I learned in my 50 years of service to God. The justice of men is slow and imperfect, but the justice of life, that always comes. Men who hurt do not find peace, ever. They can escape from jail, they can escape from the courts, but they cannot escape from themselves. They cannot escape from the consequences of their actions. Life has a way of collecting its debts, always. And in the meantime, while that justice arrives, in the meantime, you do the only thing you can do: protect your daughter, help her heal, and trust that the universe, or God, or whatever you want to call it, will do what it has to do. Her words stayed with me. That afternoon, I made a decision I didn't tell anyone about, not even Claire. I called Javier. I need another favor, I told him. Mary, we've already done a lot. I can't. It's not for me. It's for my daughter. I need you to get me information on Robert. Where is he living? What is he doing? Who is he hanging out with? Why? To know what we're facing, to be prepared. He sighed. All right, give me a few days. A week later, Javier called me. I found something, he said, but you're not going to like it. Let's meet at a coffee shop far from the DA's office. He put a folder on the table. He opened it. Inside there were photographs, reports, information. Robert is living with his parents in Yonkers, New York. He left his job at the construction company. Or rather, he was fired. Some of his colleagues found out about the complaint and filed a formal grievance. They said they didn't want to work with an abuser. Good, I said. Although I didn't feel good. I felt empty. But there's more. He's frequenting bars, drinking heavily. And 3 days ago he had an altercation with a waiter. The police had to intervene. They didn't arrest him because the waiter didn't press charges, but it was documented. I looked at the photographs. Robert leaving a bar at 3 o'clock in the morning. Robert arguing with someone on the street. Robert with a wrinkled shirt, dishevelled hair, the face of someone who is losing himself. Is he self-destructing? I said. Yes, and that can be good or bad for you. What do you mean? That he can collapse on his own, or he can explode and do something desperate. I felt a chill. That night I sat with Claire in the living room. I showed her the photographs. I told her what Javier had found. She looked at them in silence. Her face didn't show triumph. It didn't show satisfaction. It only showed sadness. He's destroying himself, she whispered. Yes, part of me feels sorry for him. I know. Does that make me a fool? No, my love. That makes you human. You can feel sorry for someone and still keep your distance. You can wish him well and still protect yourself. She left the photographs on the table. Do you think I can ever forgive him? I don't know. But I do know that forgiveness doesn't mean going back. It means letting go. It means letting go of the weight of what he did to you. I don't know how to do that. No one does. But you try, one day at a time. The next day, I did something I needed to do. I wrote a letter to Robert. I didn't send it by mail. I didn't send it through lawyers. I simply wrote it. For myself. To close something inside me. It said, Robert, I am not writing to insult you. I am not writing to threaten you. I am writing because I need you to know something. You thought you could hurt my daughter without consequences. You thought you were untouchable, that you could control her, destroy her, and no one would do anything. You were wrong. Not because I am powerful, not because I have unlimited resources, but because I am a mother, and there is no more dangerous force in this world than a mother protecting her daughter. I don't need revenge. I don't need you to suffer by my hands, because life is already collecting its debt from you. You are already losing everything, your job, your reputation, your peace of mind, and you will continue to lose, because that's how it works. The pain you cause comes back. I am not going to pursue you. I am not going to look for you. But if you ever, ever come near my daughter again, if you touch her, if you threaten her, if you even look at her, I will use every contact I have, every favor owed to me, every resource I have accumulated in 28 years to make sure you pay, not with violence, but with justice, the real kind, the kind that cannot be bought, the kind that cannot be negotiated. Stay away, rebuild your life, get help, but leave us in peace, because we will not give you another chance. Mary O'Connell. I folded the letter. I put it away in a drawer, and I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. That same week, something unexpected happened. I received a call from a woman I didn't know. Mary O'Connell? She asked, her voice trembling. Yes, who is this? My name is Danielle Osborne. The world stopped. Danielle, Robert's ex-girlfriend, the one who had filed a complaint and withdrawn the charges. Danielle, I said, trying to stay calm. How did you find me? A friend who works at the DA's office told me about your daughter's complaint, and I needed to talk to you. Why? Silence. And then, because I want to testify. We met 2 days later at a downtown coffee shop. Danielle was a woman about 35 years old, thin, with short hair and a small scar on her left eyebrow. She looked nervous, fragile, as if any loud noise could break her. Thank you for coming, I told her. Thank you for seeing me. I know it must be strange. It's not strange, it's necessary. She took a sip of her coffee. Her hands were shaking. When I found out your daughter filed a complaint, I felt two things, guilt and relief. Guilt, because I could have stopped him 4 years ago. If I hadn't withdrawn my complaint, maybe your daughter never would have gone through this. It wasn't your fault, I said firmly. You did what you could, and that's enough. She wiped her tears. I want to testify at the trial. I want to tell what he did to me, so the judge sees that this isn't an isolated incident, that it's a pattern, that Robert is dangerous. I felt a lump in my throat. Are you sure? Because it's going to be difficult. His family is going to attack you. They're going to say you're lying, that you have resentment. I know. But if I don't do this, if another woman ends up with him, and I didn't do anything to stop him, I couldn't live with myself. I looked her in the eyes, and I saw something I hadn't expected. Strength, resilience, survival. I told Claire about Danielle that night. She cried, not from sadness, but from something deeper, from understanding, from connection. I'm not alone, she whispered. I wasn't the first. I wasn't the only one. No, my love, you weren't the only one. And that's horrible. But it also means you're not crazy, that you didn't imagine anything, that it was all real. She nodded, took a deep breath, and for the first time in weeks, I saw something in her eyes that I thought I had lost. Hope. The day Danielle presented her complimentary testimony to the DA's office, Claire and I went to support her. We didn't go into the room, we just waited outside. All three of us together, 3 women who had been hurt by the same man. When Danielle came out, she was exhausted, but also relieved. "It's done," she said. "I did my part." Claire hugged her. "Thank you. Thank you for being brave. Thank you, because your complaint gave me the courage to come back." We stood there, the three of us, in the DA's office hallway, hugging, crying, releasing years of pain. And I understood something. Justice doesn't always come from the courts. Sometimes it comes from women holding each other up, giving each other strength, refusing to stay silent. That night, Claire and I ate dinner in silence. I made beef stew, the same one my grandmother taught me, the same one I taught Claire. The smell filled the kitchen, familiar, comforting, like an invisible hug. "Mum," Claire said, breaking the silence, "I want to go back to work." I looked at her, surprised. "Are you sure?" "Yes, I want to get my life back. I can't stay hidden forever." "What if he looks for you?" "Then I'll face him, but I'm not going to keep living in fear. I'm not going to give him that power over me." I felt my heart swell with pride. My daughter was coming back, but I knew something was still missing. Robert was still out there, free, waiting, and eventually he would try something. Men like him don't give up. They don't accept defeat. They always come back. And when he did, I had to be ready, but not with revenge, not with violence, but with something more powerful, with the truth, with patience, with the certainty that life collects its debts. Always. A week later, something changed. Javier called me. "Mary, you need to know something." "What happened?" Robert had another altercation. This time it was worse. He hit a man in a bar. The man pressed charges. And now there's an arrest warrant. I felt the air leave my lungs. "When?" "He was arrested this morning, and this time the judge didn't give him bail. He's going to remain in pre-trial detention until the trial." I hung up the phone. I stood there, sitting on my bed, my hands trembling. I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel joy. I only felt relief. And something else, understanding. Sister Teresa was right. Life collects its debts, always. That night I told Claire. She didn't say anything at first. She just looked out the window, watching the city lights, watching the world she had lost and was starting to get back. "Do you think he'll change?" she finally asked. "Do you think Robert can change in jail?" "I don't know, my love, but he's no longer our problem. It's no longer our responsibility to save him." "And what is our responsibility?" "To live, to heal, to be happy." She turned to me. She smiled. A small, shy, but real smile. "I think I can do that. Me too." And in that moment, sitting in my living room, with my daughter by my side, I understood something. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need Robert to suffer by my hands, because life was already doing it. His own decisions, his own actions, his own consequences. I only needed to protect my daughter and let the universe do the rest. Because sometimes the most powerful justice is not the one you impose, it's the one you allow to unfold. Naturally, inevitably, like the tides, like the seasons, like karma. There is something I learned in all these years. Life doesn't need us to ask for justice. Life simply delivers it, in its own time, in its own way, without rushing, but without forgetting. 3 months passed since Robert was arrested again. 3 months in which, little by little, my daughter began to return to the world. First, it was small things, going out into the garden, getting some sun, smiling when she saw birds, wearing colours in her clothes again instead of that permanent grey she had adopted. Then, bigger things. She called her old agency. She explained the situation. They welcomed her back with open arms. They told her she had been their best designer, that they had missed her, that her place had always been there, waiting for her. Claire cried when she told me, but this time they weren't tears of pain. They were tears of relief. "I'm going back to work, Mum," she told me. "I'm going back to creating." And she did it. She started slowly. From home, simple designs, logos for small businesses, illustrations for a children's book, covers for an independent publisher. But every design was a step. Every creation was a reclaiming of something she thought was lost. One day she came home with a huge smile. "Mom, look." She showed me her laptop. It was a book cover. A beautiful illustration of a woman with her back turned, looking toward a light-filled horizon. The title of the book was After the Storm. "It's beautiful," I told her. "It's mine. I designed it. And they're going to publish it. It's going to be in real bookstores." I hugged her, tight, because that cover wasn't just a design. It was a symbol of everything she had survived, of everything she had recovered, of everything she could still create. While Claire flourished, I followed the legal case closely. The trial was scheduled for June. The district attorney's office had enough evidence. The photographs of Claire's injuries, her testimony, Danielle Osborne's testimony, the medical reports, the history of violence. Robert's defense tried to delay everything. They asked for more time. They questioned the validity of the evidence. They tried to discredit Claire and Danielle. But something was changing, something no lawyer could control. Robert was crumbling from the inside. Javier kept me informed. He told me things that didn't appear in the official documents, things he saw at the preliminary hearings, things he heard from other officers. "Robert is not the same," he told me one day. "He looks haggard. He lost a lot of weight. He has deep circles under his eyes. And when he speaks, he no longer has that arrogance. He looks empty." Empty? Yes, like something inside him went out. Those words kept going through my mind. Empty. In jail, Robert was paying a price no judge had imposed on him. It wasn't the cell. It wasn't the hours. It wasn't the bad food or the cold nights. It was the loneliness. His family, who at first defended him tooth and nail, began to distance themselves. His father stopped visiting him after the second month. He said he had to take care of his health, that the stress was killing him. But the truth was something else. He was ashamed. Ashamed to have a son like that. Ashamed of the neighbors' looks, the gossip in the neighborhood. His mother kept going, but less and less. And each visit was shorter, quieter, until one day she simply stopped going. She sent him a letter. Javier told me Robert read it and cried. It said something like, "I can't keep turning a blind eye anymore. What you did to those women was wrong. And even though you are my son, I can't keep supporting this. You need to seek help. You need to change. But I can't be there anymore watching you destroy yourself." His brothers never went to see him. Not once. His friends disappeared. The ones who used to invite him to play football, to drink beer, to watch games. None of them answered his calls from jail, and the loneliness began to devour him. In May, 1 month before the trial, there was a conciliation hearing. Robert's lawyer proposed a settlement. If Claire withdrew the complaint, Robert would agree to mandatory therapy, community service, and would maintain the permanent restraining order. The prosecutor called us to ask what we thought. Claire and I looked at each other. She took a deep breath. "I want to see him," she said. "What?" "I want to see him. Before I decide. I need to look him in the eyes." The prosecutor arranged a supervised meeting in a small room at the DA's office, with guards present, with cameras recording everything. I went with Claire. We sat on one side of a long table. We waited. When the door opened and Robert walked in, I barely recognized him. The man who had entered our lives with an ironed shirt, a perfect smile, and infinite arrogance no longer existed. In his place was a thin man, hunched over, with the orange prison uniform hanging off his body, long, messy hair, a grown-out beard, deep circles under his eyes, the eyes empty, exactly as Javier had described. He sat down across from us. He didn't look up immediately. When he finally did, he looked at us. First at Claire, then at me. And I saw something I hadn't expected to see. Shame, remorse, defeat. "Claire," he said in a hoarse voice, as if he hadn't spoken in days. I don't know what to say." She didn't respond. She just looked at him, firm, no longer afraid. "I know nothing I say will fix what I did. I know I hurt you, destroyed you, and I have no excuse, no justification." He paused. He took a shaky breath. "I was so lost, so angry at the world, at my job, at myself, and instead of fixing it, I took it out on you. And that was unforgivable." Claire still didn't speak, but I saw that her hands, which would have been trembling before, were now still, calm. "I'm not asking you to forgive me. I don't deserve it. I'm just asking you to know that I regret it. Every day, every night in that cell, I see your face. I see what I did to you. And I wish I could go back in time." Finally, Claire spoke. "Do you know what the saddest part is, Robert?" He looked at her, waiting. "That I did forgive you. Not for you, for me. Because carrying the hatred was killing me as much as you were killing me. But forgiving you doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean going back. It doesn't mean what you did was okay." He nodded. A tear fell down his cheek. "I know. And it also doesn't mean I'm going to withdraw the complaint." His face winced, but he didn't protest. He just lowered his head. "You need to pay for what you did. Not for revenge, but because it's the right thing to do. Because if you don't pay, you'll do the same thing to someone else. And I'm not going to carry that guilt." Claire stood up. I stood up with her. "I hope you find help, Robert. I hope that in that jail you find a way to become a better man. Not for me, but for you. Because as you are now, you are dead inside." And we walked out of the room. When the door closed behind us, Claire collapsed in my arms. But it wasn't the crying from before. It wasn't the crying of the victim. It was the crying of someone who had just closed a chapter, of someone who had just freed herself from the last chain. "It's over, Mum," she whispered. "It's really over." The trial was in June, as scheduled. Claire testified, with a firm voice, without breaking. She told everything, every blow, every insult, every humiliation. Danielle also testified. Her voice trembled, but she didn't stop. She talked about her experience, how Robert had manipulated, controlled, and hurt her. The defense lawyers tried to discredit them, but they couldn't. Because the evidence was overwhelming. Because two women, at two different times, had lived exactly the same thing. And because the judge, a 50-year-old woman with a stern look, was not willing to let this go. The verdict came 3 weeks later. Guilty. Aggravated domestic violence, threats, coercive control, 8 years in prison, with no possibility of sentence reduction for good behavior until serving at least 5 years. Permanent restraining order upon release, mandatory psychological therapy. When the judge read the sentence, Claire didn't cry, didn't scream, didn't celebrate. She just closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and squeezed my hand. I looked at Robert. He was standing, handcuffed, his head down. When they led him out of the room, he turned one last time, looked at us, and in his eyes, I saw something that confirmed what I already knew. He wasn't a monster. He was a broken man who had broken others. And now, finally, he was paying. We left the courtroom into the daylight. The sun was shining. The streets of Boston were alive. People walking, children playing, street vendors selling shaved ice and boiled corn on the cob. Life. Pure life. Claire breathed the fresh air, raised her face to the sun, and smiled. "Mom," she said, "I'm hungry." I laughed, for the first time in months. I truly laughed. "What do you want to eat?" "Barbecue, with freshly made tortillas, and a really cold iced tea." "Then let's go." And we went. We ate at a small restaurant near the downtown crossing market. We ordered barbecue, tortillas, onion, cilantro, lime. Claire ate with appetite. She ate like I hadn't seen her eat in a year. And while we ate, we talked. Not about Robert, not about the trial, not about the pain. We talked about her work, about her new projects, about the places she wanted to visit, about the dreams she wanted to get back. We talked about life, the life she could now live, without fear, without chains, free. 3 months after the trial, Claire moved out. Not far. Just to a small apartment a few streets from my house. A place just for her, with large windows that let in the light, with white walls where she could hang her own designs. When I went to help her unpack, I found something in one of the boxes. It was the photograph I had taken of Robert that day, the one I sent to get him arrested. "Why did you save this?" I asked her. She looked at it. "To remember." "Remember what?" "That I survived, that you saved me, and that I will never again allow anyone to take my light." She put the photograph in an envelope. She sealed it, and she put it in the bottom of a drawer. It stays there, as part of the past, but it no longer has power over me. A year later, I received news. Javier called me. "Mary, I thought you would want to know something. What happened?" "Robert is in therapy in jail. Therapy for abusers. They say he's cooperating, that he's working on his problems." And nothing. I just wanted you to know. I don't know if he'll change. I don't know if he's really sorry or just playing the game to get out earlier. But at least, he's in therapy. I thanked him for the information, but it didn't affect me, because Robert was no longer my problem. He was no longer Claire's problem. He was his own problem, and what he did with his life was in his own hands. We had already moved on. 2 years after the trial, something beautiful happened. Claire met someone. I'm not going to lie to you. When she told me, I felt fear. I felt panic. I wanted to scream, "No, not again." But I kept quiet. I took a breath and listened. His name was Daniel. He worked at an independent bookstore. He liked to read poetry. He played the guitar. He was calm, kind, respectful. "Mum, he's not like Robert," Claire told me. "He listens to me. He respects me. He never pressures me. And when I told him everything I went through, he cried. He cried because it hurt him to know that someone had hurt me like that." I met Daniel a few weeks later. He was exactly as she described him. When he said goodbye to us, he kissed Claire on the cheek, softly, respectfully, and he said, "Thanks for dinner. I loved meeting your mum." When he was gone, Claire looked at me. "What do you think?" I think he's a good man. Just that? I think you deserve someone who treats you like that, with respect, with affection, without fear. She smiled. I think so too. 3 years after the trial, something else happened. I received a letter. It had no return address, but I recognized the handwriting. It was from Robert's mother. It said, Mary, I don't know if you'll read this. I don't know if you hate me. I wouldn't blame you if you did. I want you to know that I am very sorry for what my son did to your daughter. I regret having been blind. I regret having defended the indefensible. Robert is in therapy. He is trying to change. I don't know if he'll succeed, but at least he's trying. I am also in therapy because I realized that I failed. I failed as a mother. I failed to see the signs. I failed by raising him to think that men could take out their frustration on women. I am not asking for forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it. I only ask you to know that your daughter was brave, that the two of you were brave, and that because of you, my son is finally facing what he did. And so am I. Thank you. Susan Spencer. I read the letter twice. I put it in a drawer. I didn't reply to it because I didn't have to, because that letter wasn't for me to give her peace. It was for her to start finding peace for herself. And then, 4 years after the day I took that photograph, I received a call that closed everything. It was Javier. Mary, Robert had a collapse in jail. My heart stopped. What happened? It wasn't anything physical. It was emotional. He had a crisis. He tried to hurt himself. They put him on psychiatric watch. He's very bad, Mary. I felt something strange in my chest. It wasn't satisfaction. It wasn't joy. It was sadness. Sadness for a man who had everything and lost everything because of his own decisions. And what's going to happen to him? He's going to continue intensive therapy. They say he's finally confronting the damage he caused, that he's finally seeing what he really is. And that's good? I don't know. But it's the beginning. Maybe. Who knows? I hung up the phone, and I sat there, in my kitchen, with a cup of coffee in my hands, thinking about everything that had happened, about how life collects its debts, about how justice, sometimes, doesn't come from the courts. It comes from natural consequences, from karma, from the universe adjusting balances. Was someone you love ever called crazy for asking for help? Did you see that same emptiness in the eyes of the person who hurt her years later? Life always collects its debts. Always. You don't need to take revenge. You don't need to take justice into your own hands. You only need to protect yourself, walk away, and trust that what someone sows, sooner or later they will reap. Tell me if you've seen that. If you've seen how life settles accounts when we have already let go. Because in the end, the most powerful thing you can do is not destroy the person who hurt you. It's to rebuild yourself. It's to live well. It's to be happy. That is the best revenge. That is true justice. They say time heals all wounds. And I used to believe that was a lie. But now, 5 years after that afternoon when I took that photograph, I understand that it's not about healing. It's about learning to live with the scars, about turning pain into wisdom, about transforming darkness into light. Today is Sunday. Claire is sitting in my garden under the pecan tree my mother planted 30 years ago. She has a laptop on her legs. She's working on a new design. From time to time, she looks up, looks at the sky, smiles. Daniel is with her. He's making her lemonade. He gets her a blanket when the wind blows. He kisses her on the forehead before going into the house to get the plates for lunch. And I'm here, in my kitchen, preparing meatloaf. The same meatloaf my grandmother taught me to make. The same one I taught Claire. The one she now wants to learn to perfect so she can teach it to, well, to whoever comes next. Because yes, Claire is 3 months pregnant. It's a girl. And when she told me, I cried. Not from sadness, but from something I can't explain in words. Because my daughter, who was so broken, who was so close to losing her life, is now creating a new life. And that is a miracle. A few days ago, Claire and I were talking about what to name the baby. I want to name her Mary, she told me. No, I immediately replied. Give her a name that is only hers, a name that doesn't carry my history or yours, a clean name, new. She looked at me with those honey-coloured eyes that now shine again. And what name do you suggest? I don't know, but when you see her, you will know. Just like I knew your name was Claire from the moment they put you in my arms. She smiled. Claire means bright, right? Yes. Well, then my daughter is going to have a name that means free, because that's what I want her to be. Free. Always. And in that moment, I knew that my daughter was no longer a victim. She was a survivor. She was a warrior. She was a mother. People sometimes ask me how I did it, how I found the strength to act, how I had the courage to use my contacts, how I didn't break when everything seemed impossible. And the truth is simple. I had no choice. When you love someone, when you really love someone, no fear is greater than that love. When I saw my daughter destroyed, when I saw her life slipping through my fingers, something inside me ignited. It wasn't bravery. It was instinct. It was survival. It was that ancestral power that every mother has, to protect her young, no matter the cost. But I also learned something important in this process. I learned that saving someone doesn't mean carrying their life. For a long time, after everything happened, I felt like I had to be constantly vigilant, always alert, always taking care of Claire, as if she were a small child who could break at any moment. And that was hurting both of us. Because she needed space to heal. She needed to make her own mistakes. She needed to learn to trust herself again. And I needed to understand that my job wasn't to control her. It was to love her, to be present, and to let her fly. There is a conversation Claire and I had 1 year ago that I will never forget. We were having dinner, alone. She was already living in her apartment, but she came to visit me every week. Mum, she said suddenly, I never really thanked you for what you did. You don't have to thank me. Yes, I do, because you risked everything. Your job, your reputation, your contacts, for me. I would do it 1,000 times again. She wiped her tears. I know you would, but I want you to know that it wasn't in vain, that everything we suffered, everything we went through was worth it. Because now I am free, and not just free from Robert, truly free, free from the shame, the fear, the guilt. You don't feel guilty anymore. Sometimes I do. There are still days when I wonder why I stayed so long. Why didn't I see the signs? Why did I believe his lies? That's normal. I know. But now when those thoughts come, I let them go. I no longer cling to them. I understand that I did the best I could with what I knew at the time, and that is enough. Those words filled me with peace, because they meant that my daughter had finally forgiven herself. And Robert is still in jail. He has 3 years left on his sentence. I don't know what will happen when he gets out. I don't know if he really changed. I don't know if the therapy worked or if he just learned to say what they wanted to hear. But that no longer matters to me, because Robert no longer has power over us. He is just a man in a cell, a man who lost everything, a man who is paying for his decisions. And we are living, truly living. 6 months ago, something unexpected happened. A young woman looked for me on social media. Her name was Brenda. She was 26 years old. She sent me a private message. Ms. Mary, I don't know if you remember me. I worked at the DA's office as an intern a few years ago. I heard your story, the story of how you saved your daughter. And I need to talk to you, please. I gave her my number. She called me that same night, and she told me her story. Her boyfriend was hitting her. He was controlling her. He checked her cell phone. He took her money. He threatened to kill her if she left him. I don't know what to do, she told me, crying. I'm scared. I have nowhere to go. My family lives in another state. My friends don't believe me. They say I'm exaggerating, that he loves me, that he's just stressed. And in that moment, I understood why everything had happened, why I had suffered, why I had fought, why I had documented everything. It wasn't just to save Claire. It was to be able to help others. I gave Brenda the contact numbers I had. I explained step by step how to file a complaint. I told her where she could find temporary shelter. I gave her the names of lawyers specializing in gender violence. And above all, I told her something that no one had told me when I was in the middle of the storm. You are not crazy. You are not exaggerating. What is happening to you is real. It is serious. And you deserve help. She cried. Thank you. Thank you for believing me. I will always believe you. Brenda filed her complaint 2 weeks later. Her ex-boyfriend was arrested. She got a restraining order. She moved to a temporary shelter. She started therapy. And 1 month ago, she sent me a photo. It was a photo of her smiling in her new apartment. Small, simple, but hers. The message said, "Thanks for giving me the courage, for showing me that you can get out, that you can survive." And I replied, "It wasn't me. It was you. I just reminded you how strong you already were." Since then, I've received more messages from women who read about Claire's case in the news, from women who heard the story through someone else, from women who simply needed to know that they weren't alone. And I realized something. My story, our story, is not just ours. It is the story of all the women who have suffered in silence. It is the story of all the mothers who have seen their daughters destroy themselves and don't know how to help. It is the story of all those who are afraid to file a complaint because they think the system won't protect them. And maybe it won't protect them. Maybe the system will fail. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't try. Because every complaint, every testimony, every woman who raises her voice is a crack in the wall. And when there are enough cracks, the wall collapses. Claire and I sometimes talk about writing a book, telling our complete story, uncensored, without fear, so that other women know they are not alone, so that other mothers know what to do when they see the signs. We haven't done it yet. Maybe someday. But in the meantime, we tell our story in other ways. In conversations, in messages, over coffee with women who need to hear that, yes, you can do it. Because sometimes the only thing someone needs to take the first step is to know that someone else did it before and survived and is well and is happy. Today, as I prepare this meatloaf, as I listen to Claire and Daniel's laughter in the garden, as I think about the granddaughter who is on the way, I realize something. I didn't lose 5 years of my life fighting this battle. I gained a daughter. I gained peace. I gained wisdom. And I gained the certainty that a mother's love can move mountains. It can break chains. It can change destinies. If you are listening to this story and you relate to it, if you see something of your own life in my words, if you are afraid but you also have that feeling that something is wrong, I want you to know something. You are not crazy. You are not exaggerating. It is not your fault. And yes, you can get out. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but you can. Seek help. Talk to someone you trust. Document everything. And when you are ready, take the step. Because the life that awaits you on the other side of fear is beautiful. It is free. It is yours. And if you are a mother, if you are watching your daughter, your sister, your friend, change. If you see signs but don't know what to do, trust your instinct. Don't keep quiet. Don't let shame or what people will say stop you. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is that the person you love is alive and free and safe. Everything else is fixed with time. Claire just came into the kitchen. She's here to help me chop cilantro. It smells delicious, Mum, she says. Thanks, my love. It's almost ready. She stands beside me. We chop in silence. That comfortable silence that only exists between mothers and daughters who have survived storms together. Mum, she says after a while, when my daughter grows up and asks about you, about her grandmother, what do you want me to tell her? I stop. I think. Tell her that her grandmother wasn't perfect, that she made mistakes, that she was afraid, but that when she had to choose between keeping quiet or protecting you, she chose to protect you. Always. Claire smiles. She hugs me around the waist. I'm going to tell her that. And I'm also going to tell her that thanks to you, she will grow up in a world where her mum knows what true love is and what it is not. We go out to the garden with the food. We set the table under the pecan tree. Daniel helps serve. Claire brings the warm tortillas wrapped in a cloth napkin. We sit down, the three of us. Soon we will be 4, and we toast, with iced tea, with lemonade, with the simple and beautiful life we built after the storm. To strong women, Daniel says. To those who survive, Claire says. To those who protect, I say, and we clink our glasses. Before we eat, Claire takes out her cell phone. Mum, I want to show you something. She shows me the screen. It's the design for a new book cover. The title, the photograph that changed everything. What is this? I ask. It's the book I'm going to illustrate. It's the story of a mother who saves her daughter from a violent marriage. It's not our story exactly, but it's very similar. I look at the design. It's beautiful. A woman with her back turned, holding a cell phone, and on the cell phone screen, a bright light. It's perfect, I tell her. It is, because it's real, because it happened and because it matters. We eat slowly, savoring every bite, every conversation, every laugh. And I realize that this is true justice, not Robert in a jail, not the judge's sentence, but this. My daughter, alive, happy, free, creating a family, creating art, creating a future. That is the victory. That is the most powerful revenge, to live well, to love well, to be happy. When the afternoon ends and they leave, I stay alone in my kitchen. I wash the dishes, clean the table, turn off the lights, and before going to sleep, I open the drawer of my dresser. There it is, the photograph of Robert, the one I took 5 years ago, the one I sent to that number, the one that changed everything. I look at it one last time, and I tear it up into small, unrecognizable pieces, and I throw it in the trash, because I don't need it anymore. I no longer need to remember that moment. I no longer need to remember the fear, because I have more important things to remember, like Claire's laugh, like the first cry of my granddaughter when she is born, like the peaceful mornings, the family Sundays, the nights without fear. That is what I want to take with me, not the darkness, but the light. And now, as I tell you this, Wherever you are listening to me, I want you to know something. If my story helps a single woman open her eyes, it will have been worth it. If my story gives a single mother the courage to act, it will have been worth it. If my story tells a single person that they are not alone, it will have been worth it. Because in the end, that's what life is about. Not taking revenge on those who hurt us, but helping those who come after us, reaching out a hand, saying, I went through this too, and I survived, and you can too. Thank you for listening to me until the end. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone you love. Sometimes a story like this can change an entire day. It can save a life. It can be the push someone needs to take the first step toward freedom. Subscribe and hit the notification bell to hear more stories of women who transformed their pain into wisdom. Every day, a woman, a life lesson, and remember, life always collects its debts. You don't need to take revenge, you just need to protect yourself, love yourself, and trust that the universe will deliver justice, because it always does. Always. May God bless you, and until next time.